I grew up in a quiet suburb outside of Minneapolis, the kind of place where nothing ever seemed to happen. Our street was lined with maple trees and identical ranch houses, and most nights, the only sound was the distant hum of the highway. But there's one night I'll never forget, and it changed the way I felt about being alone after dark. It was the summer before my senior year of high school. My parents were out of town for a wedding, and I was home alone for the weekend. I didn't mind. I liked the independence, and I had plans to binge horror movies and eat junk food. The first night was uneventful. I stayed up late, fell asleep on the couch, and woke up to the sun streaming through the blinds. The second night, though, was different. I went to bed around midnight, but I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing little noises, creaks, pops, the house settling. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just my imagination. I finally drifted off sometime after 2 a.m. I woke up suddenly, heart pounding, with the feeling that something was wrong. I checked my phone, 3:14 a.m. The room was pitch black except for the faint glow of the streetlight outside. That's when I heard it, a soft tapping like fingernails on glass. At first I thought it was just a tree branch, but the sound was too rhythmic, too deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. I sat up, listening, my skin crawling. The tapping stopped, replaced by a low whisper, so faint I could barely make out the words. It sounded like someone saying my name. I froze, every instinct telling me not to move. The whisper came again, a little louder this time. "Jake, Jake." My heart was racing. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, shining it toward the window. For a split second I saw a face, pale, eyes wide, mouth twisted in a grin. It vanished as soon as the light hit it, leaving only the reflection of my own terrified face in the glass. I scrambled out of bed and ran to the hallway, locking myself in the bathroom. I called 911, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. The police arrived a few minutes later. They searched the yard but found nothing, no footprints, no sign that anyone had been there. They told me it was probably just a prank, maybe a neighbor kid messing around. But I knew what I saw. I knew that face wasn't human. After that night, I slept with the blinds closed and a baseball bat by my bed. I never told my parents the full story. They wouldn't have believed me anyway. But sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night, I still hear that tapping, and I wonder if whatever was at my window is still out there, waiting for me to let my guard down. I worked the closing shift at a 24-hour pharmacy in a mid-sized city in Ohio. Most nights were slow, just a handful of late-night customers picking up prescriptions or snacks. The store was in a strip mall, surrounded by empty parking lots and a few fast food joints that closed by midnight. After 1 a.m., it always felt like the world had gone to sleep, leaving me and the security cameras as the only witnesses to whatever happened in the dark. One night in early spring, I was working with my friend Lisa. It was a Tuesday, and the weather was miserable. Cold rain, wind rattling the glass doors. We spent most of the night restocking shelves and chatting to pass the time. Around 2:30 a.m., Lisa went to the back to take inventory, leaving me alone at the front register. That's when I noticed a man standing under the streetlight at the far end of the parking lot. He was tall, wearing a long coat and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. He just stood there, not moving, not coming any closer. At first I thought he was waiting for a ride, but after 10 minutes he was still there, staring at the store. I tried to ignore him, but every time I glanced outside, he was in the same spot, unmoving. The rain picked up, and the parking lot emptied out completely. I started to feel uneasy, so I locked the doors, even though we were supposed to stay open all night. A few minutes later, the man started walking toward the store. He moved slowly, almost deliberately, his head down. I watched him on the security monitor as he reached the doors and tried the handle. When he realized it was locked, he looked up, and for the first time I saw his face, pale with deep-set eyes and a thin, twisted smile. He knocked on the glass, not hard, just a slow, steady tap. I shook my head and mouthed, "We're closed." He didn't move, just kept tapping, his eyes never leaving mine. I called Lisa on the store phone, telling her to stay in the back and not come out. The man started pacing in front of the doors, tapping on the glass every few seconds. Then he pulled something out of his coat, a small black notebook. He pressed it against the glass, showing me a page covered in scribbled writing. I couldn't read it from where I stood, but the way he stared at me made my skin crawl. After a few minutes, he put the notebook away and walked back to the streetlight, standing in the rain as if nothing had happened. I called the police, explaining what was going on. They said they'd send a patrol car, but it might take a while. Lisa and I watched the man from the break room window, too scared to go back out front. The patrol car finally arrived about 20 minutes later, but by then, the man was gone. The officer searched the lot and found nothing. No footprints, no sign that anyone had been there. The next morning when we opened the store, I found a piece of paper taped to the front door. On it was a single sentence written in shaky handwriting. "I'll be back when you're alone." I never saw the man again, but for months after, I dreaded every night shift, always watching the parking lot, waiting for that pale face to appear under the streetlight. Sometimes when the rain hits the glass just right, I swear I can still see him standing there, waiting for me to let him in. I grew up in a 100-year-old house in rural Pennsylvania, the kind with creaky floors, drafty windows, and a basement that always seemed colder than the rest of the house, no matter the season. My parents used the basement for storage, old furniture, boxes of Christmas decorations, and tools my dad never used. As a kid, I hated going down there, especially at night. The stairs were steep, the light switch was at the bottom, and the shadows always seemed to move when you weren't looking. When I was in college, I came home for winter break. My parents had gone to visit my aunt for a few days, leaving me alone in the house. I didn't mind. I had the place to myself, and I planned to catch up on sleep and binge-watch TV. The first night was uneventful, just the usual creaks and groans of an old house settling in the cold. The second night, I stayed up late, scrolling through my phone in bed. Around 2:45 a.m., I heard a noise from downstairs, a dull thud, like something heavy falling. I figured it was just a box shifting in the basement, but then I heard it again, louder this time. I got up, grabbed a flashlight, and crept down the stairs. The house was silent except for the ticking of the old clock in the hallway. I reached the basement door and listened. For a moment there was nothing. Then I heard it. A slow, dragging sound, like something being pulled across the concrete floor. My heart started pounding. I told myself it was just a mouse or maybe a raccoon that had gotten in somehow. I opened the basement door, the hinges squealing in the quiet. The darkness below felt thick, almost alive. I flicked on the flashlight and started down the stairs, each step creaking under my weight. Halfway down, I heard a whisper, so faint I thought I imagined it. It sounded like someone calling my name. I froze, listening. The whisper came again, a little louder. "Eli, Eli." My skin crawled. I shined the flashlight around the basement, but all I saw were boxes and shadows. The dragging sound started up again, closer this time. I reached the bottom of the stairs and saw that the old wooden door at the far end of the basement, the one that led to the root cellar, was open a crack. My dad always kept it locked, ever since a raccoon got in years ago. I walked over, my hands shaking, and pushed the door open. The root cellar was pitch black, the air cold and damp. I shined the light inside and saw footprints in the dust, bare, human footprints, leading from the door to the far wall. I followed them, my breath fogging in the cold air. In the corner, I found a pile of old blankets and a half-empty water bottle. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me. I spun around, heart racing, and heard footsteps running up the basement stairs. I pounded on the door, shouting for help, but no one answered. I was trapped in the dark, the only sound my own ragged breathing. After what felt like hours, I heard the basement door open upstairs. Light spilled down the stairs, and I heard my neighbor's voice calling my name. He'd seen a strange man running from the house and came to check on me. He let me out, and we called the police. They searched the house and found muddy footprints leading from the basement to the back door. The police said it was probably a drifter looking for a place to sleep. But I never believed that. I know what I heard. The whisper, the sound of my name in the dark. After that night, I never slept in that house alone again. My parents changed the locks and installed motion lights, but I still have nightmares about the basement door, about the feeling of being watched from the shadows, and about the voice that called my name in the dead of night.